Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Special Curve Calculator Edition. If you're new to this channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a link in the info box or a super chat that runs alongside these shows while they are live. I am joined by Chris Monk and Sleeping Warrior for some interesting news regarding a certain website which may or may not get named. First of all, how are you doing, Sleeping Warrior? Good to have you here.
Yo, yo.
And how are you doing, Chris?
Doing well, thanks.
Excellent. Now you join us in the midst, literal outrage at what we are looking at. So who's going to kick us off with an explanation to why this warrants a special Flat Earth Debate edition?
Right, I'll introduce it, right? I got a message from M. Scott Veach asking me from this morning's hangout with yourself, why was it that I was still citing the drop from the curve calc? And obviously the answer is because the drop is the geometric drop on a sphere or a spheroid. And the way that the diagram was this morning was wrong. So I said to M. Scott Veach, do you want to come on now? I'm in a call at the minute with Skype, but if you want to come on now, we'll chat and we'll discuss it, because the diagram is incorrect. It's that simple. It's wrong. So 15-20 minutes later, he came on, and basically me and Chris were still mid-call. So I'm sharing my screen now. Do you want to do whatever you need to do?
Sharing. It's all good. It's a Skype call, so there's not a great deal of fuss. You can control whatever you share.
Okay, so there would be the metabunk, and what he's now done is he's changed this diagram to exactly the conversation that I had with M. Scott Veach this afternoon, because I labelled the video Dear Mick West ... Now, because of a miscommunication between me and M. Scott Veach, he didn't realise that it was being broadcast, and I thought I'd made it clear, but maybe I didn't, so he asked me to remove it, because he wanted to make sure that he was speaking properly and enough for it to go public. But in the meantime, it was up for about an hour or two. And obviously Mick West has now seen it and he's reacted, because now he's changed the reference to the drop. Before, the drop was relative to the eye level, okay? And that's incorrect. It should be relative to the lower height, which is the height on the globe. It's the surface level. So now he's got it so that it's no longer the eye height. He's got it to the point on, and then the drop down to the point on the surface. So now this is correct. But notice he's got this draggable. So basically, you're able to now do this so that you can see the relationship between the hidden and the drop, which is really useful because it does make more sense. Now, in the hangout with M. Scott Veach and myself and Chris, M. Scott Veach agreed that this was wrong and that Mick West would have to fix it. And then we had numerous other conversations. But in essence, the issue was partly to do with the drop, and secondly, to do with the reference to the hidden, because where an object is not hidden, then there is no reference to it. And in particular, in the context that we were discussing this morning, this is it. We were talking about these dots on the hill. Oops. So we were talking about these dots, and what we were trying to establish was, how do we establish, using the new diagram, whether or not these things are sat behind the curve or are they sat above the curve? And the answer was you couldn't tell, because the drop value was relative to the eye level rather than relative to the surface level. But also, it was the drop value did not change when you put in your value. So let's just say you go with 50 miles and you go with 50 feet. What the drop value was, the drop value was not changing at all. Now, it conflicted because on the diagram, it was relative to the eye level rather than the surface level. So it was either the maths was wrong up here, the arithmetic was wrong, or the diagram was wrong. But he needed to fix one or the other because it was wrong either way. So he had to fix something, he had to change it. So now, if we put the value in now and change the observer height, it doesn't really matter what figure you put in. You can see that the drop height stays the same. But because he's changed the value and he's linked the value to the actual the surface rather than the eye level, now the drop value is correct. But you can zoom in and zoom out now, which is quite a lot better. So you can put it relative to your monitor. But
Before you give any more, sorry, Anthony, before you give any more praise, because just before we started this broadcast, Chris was pretty annoyed, and I want to get that into. Hopefully, he's still got his annoyance in his tone. We shall see.
Well, it is. It is rather annoying that when you take the time and you're involved in a conversation, then you analyze it and actually provide them with a critique of the site and so forth, and then within 2 hours have that 2 to 3 hours of having that conversation. You have the website updated and completely changed, exactly replicating the model that I had done on your show. So what they've done is taken the model I demonstrated to show what was wrong with the curve of the Earth and how it doesn't work and everything else, and use that information to update this model as basically an advertisement for this organization, right? Which is, slightly annoying, I think, but it is what it is.
But the point is, he is watching,
so
and he is.
For sure. So I would. It's always my suggestion to, come up with your own, and
so
I
what
wouldn't use this website for nothing because it's
Hold on,
crap.
Anthony. That's the most important bit I wanted to get in, and you've talked over it.
Well, I thought you'd finished.
Well, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't advertise for this stuff because it's, I wouldn't advertise and act as a free agent for this organization because it's crap.
So, this now means that all those ball earthers that are so conformity based with regards to authority that didn't see the problem with this diagram. So I'm talking GeoStreber, I'm talking Paul Voigt, all the people that laughed at me saying that, hey, he's changed the model on you and you're critical. Yeah, because his model that he changed wasn't right. He's tried to fix a mistake or an error because it was poorly labeled and then made it so that it was still wrong. And it takes a flat earther like me with no brain and all that nonsense that I get told all the time that I should be grateful because he's fixed it. Well, no, because he hadn't fixed it. He'd made it worse. And I know he's watching. And Michael, I appreciate that you fixed it to some degree. But I'd still say that, let me see. Oh, no, it's okay. But the point is, it was wrong. And none of you ball earthers thought critically enough to spot the mistake. So the likes of
it's still wrong in my opinion. Right? It's still wrong because the observer, as you rise in altitude, would not tilt the camera down, which I made quite clear in my presentation earlier as well. Like as you rise, you don't start looking down at the ground, right? If you're going to have a level line of sight with the horizon, it's a level line of sight, right? Because the horizon rises to you, right? So this is basically demonstrating an illusion of a ball that doesn't exist. So I still find it annoying, right?
And it's preposterous to say that if you rise in elevation, the drop doesn't increase. If you rise in elevation to the height of an airliner, you're telling me that your drop hasn't increased. It's ridiculous. Some of these people are so mental as to think that increasing in elevation doesn't increase drop. It's like, literally, if it says it in the maths, they will believe anything. How ridiculous.
Yeah. They will. If it says it in the maths and it's come from an authority, they will literally conform to the authority. They will be obedient to the authority. So all those stupid ballers, and I'll use the word stupid because they didn't critically think, was it actually right? He'd fixed it and he hadn't made it right. He'd fixed it so it was better, but he hadn't fixed it so it was right. And not one of you's noticed it, right? You all laughed at me saying that I should be grateful that he's changed it and not realised that it was wrong. So none of you's realised it. You all laughed at me for it. And the reality is this. You will all agree to anything in the name of you will all conform to anything in the name of obedience in exactly the way that Stanley Milgram's experiment with obedience showed. So let me just show you what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I can detail it. So if you stick a man in a white coat and stick him in front of an electrocution machine and tell him that somebody in the next room has to answer your questions, and if they get them wrong, they get an electrocution. And on the machine in front of you, you have increasing amounts of electricity into a range that clearly is stated as being dangerous to human life. And in essence, so long as the man in the white coat behind you tells you to continue, I don't know the exact percentage that's going to be quoted when Anthony finds it, but a lot of people will just continue to electrocute the person on the other side of the room because a man in a white coat has told them to do so. And shout out to Nick No Longer L and Everett Anderson, who literally quoted this rising in elevation without it actually increasing any drop to me in the comments. And I had to point out to them, this is the most stupid thing I've ever heard anybody say to me. And these people considered themselves educated, smart.
Yeah.
It's like you cannot use critical thinking if you're literally going to go to a maths equation and quote what it says to me as though it's reality and think it's correct. And when I pointed this out to both of them, they both ignored it. Literally had no response to their idiocy.
GeoStreamer was exactly the same. He was like, well, you've changed it now. What's the problem? And I'm like, well, look at what he's saying. This is why ball earthers can't call out ball earthers, because they can't critically think about their own ball earthers nonsense. They just accept it. Now, they think that they call out their ball earthers nonsense because Geo claims that he's called Sean out for this and Rumpus out for that. But there's glaringly obvious mistakes and problems in this nonsense.
Saying in chat now, Nick, Nathan Oakley, go on the Metabunk site right now, change your viewer height and observe whether or not the drop changes. Yeah, the maths might say the drop doesn't change, Nick. Is that what you accept as your basis of reality, you complete idiot? Oh my God, he's still saying it now. For the love of God, Nick.
Maybe I could, let me share the screen here too. I just want to demonstrate something to show you what is I find.
Just hang on before you do. Nick with Noel obviously does not realise the problem that we have here. He's changed the drop value from the eye level, which is where it was this afternoon, to the surface level, which is where it should be based on the arithmetic above. Now, Nick with Noel probably has no brain either, because he probably doesn't understand what the significance of that is. It was wrong. It's that simple. It wasn't nearly there or a little bit out. It were wrong. So obviously Mick's watched it. He's now changed it. And you guys are going, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal, blah, blah. No, it's wrong. At the end of the day, Nick with Noel, if you've got Noel, you've got no brains. You might as well have no brains. You will literally accept any nonsense you're given.
Yeah, well, this diagram is literally in reverse psychology, and I can show you exactly why. It'll kind of reinforce what Nathan was just saying too.
Go on, you show your screen. I'll stop.
And so just hold that image in your mind that we just looked at there, and I'll share the screen here in an actual model of an Earth. It's actually to scale as well. And like I did before, on the top of the ball is the camera looking level to the horizon at an object on the surface. Now, what would really happen in reality, if you change the distance between you as an observer and that object and go around the ball, look at what happens to your line of sight. It continuously rises as the object drops further and further away from you. So now you can see that what that meta whatever website is actually an inverse of reality, because the line of sight, they've taken the tilt angle and so forth where the observer would be and just inverted it for the viewer height. Like it's actually backwards, like completely backwards. You see how that's working? Right? If I'm looking at something on the top of a ball and I walk backwards and get it further and further away from the object, my line of sight should be level, if I have a camera or a transit, level to the center of so-called gravity on the ball. My line of sight is this way if I'm level to transit anything. I don't tilt my transit down to the horizon to target anything, because my transit would no longer be valid because it's not level. You can't survey anything unless the transit is level. This is level. Just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. You can't get around the gravity pulling you down to the center of the point that you're on the ball.
Correct. This is a level line on a spherical ball with gravity. That's your level line of sight. So the drop is relative between you here and the object you're trying to shoot, right? So they've reversed it completely. It's complete reverse psychology. So if you can't see that, that's why I find it very annoying.
Further to that,
you would never.
We don't live on a ball.
Never survey anything like that.
We don't live on a ball, so the whole lot is nonsense. I mean,
well, exactly, that's true, right? But yeah,
I mean, the thing that you were saying earlier about Metabunk is there's an open opportunity for anybody out there to make a curve calculator that conforms to a sphere. Let's not say Earth, but a sphere that's 24,900 miles in circumference. No, anybody can go out and do that and create a curve calculator based on it. So there's no reason why we have to endorse said site that we have been critiquing. It's not necessary. So was there anything else that you guys wanted to add while we've got a live audience of about, I don't know, 70, 80 people?
Yeah, Nath, can you just respond to this? Grim says in chat, there was one comment that he made which I thought was funny. Hang on, let me find it. Where's it gone? Bear with me while I find it. It's
suitable
scrolled up
for broadcast.
Yeah, it is suitable for broadcast. Where is it now? Come on. Grim Reaper, there we go. There we go. Thanks, Gio. Nathan and Riley's voices make me spew. Riley thinks Mick changed it all because of him. What a conceited arse. Nath, do you think that Mick's changed it because of us, or do you think that Mick's changed it for no unconnected reasons whatsoever?
It's absolutely a reaction to what we have been doing on this show and what you have been doing with his calculations and depictions and their failings. So yes, it absolutely is a reaction.
I agree. It is because of what we're doing now. We'll reconsider our position based on this new evidence. But I will say that the draggable bit is quite interesting because you can see how the hidden part drops behind the curve. Because now, obviously, what we want to do, if I share my screen briefly for a sec before we round off and finish for the night. So as we move the hidden value, you can see that as we move this draggable bit, you can see that the hidden bit increases as you get further away. Now we've got half a chance of working out what the position should be when we look at real world evidence, because real world evidence should tell us where these lights should be on the ball. And now I don't want to give too many spoilers, but they're behind the curve and they're not visible on the maths. But at least we have something now that we can refer to that's got some element of logicalness, logic and reason, that bandied phrase. Forget what evidence tells you. Logic and reason is our application when it comes to the ball earth and stuff. But at least we can reconsider it now and come back and say, actually, if it was a ball, this is what it'd look like. Obviously, that's not what we're going to come back and say. We're going to come back and say, if it was a ball, this is what it'd be what it looks like, but we're not on a ball. And that's why it doesn't look like it. But anyway, Mick, thank you very much for fixing it, because it does look a lot better now. However, still don't live in a ball.
Well, it still doesn't conform to normal surveying standard practice either. So it's still bunk. Bunk is a good name for that site. I will give it that much.
Have you still got your page open, Chris, just to show one more time us tipping back on our heels and our line of sight raising?
Absolutely.
I just want to stress that point just one more time.
Yes, if you're a surveyor using a transit on a ball with a center of gravity, you have to maintain your line of sight level to the center of gravity 90 degrees to that center point. From here to there is a 90-degree angle, essentially. And as you rotate that camera on the ball, going around in a circle, your line of sight, if you start top dead center and move your distance from your target, your line of sight keeps going up and up and up and up, because you have to maintain level to the center to transit anything. So that diagram on that website is completely backwards. The hidden would be actually this distance. If I had a tower on the top of this ball and I'm trying to survey, the actual distance of you couldn't see, because you have to maintain a level line, would be thousands of feet within a few degrees. As simple as that.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to Chris Monk and Sleeping Warrior for joining us on this special Flat Earth Debate edition. Be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.